Let's look at the early midweek preview for Watkins Glen. We're talking about the Cup Series preview video, going over some initial thoughts, strategy. Guys, we're high on what we really want to watch for coming into this weekend. Lineup construction, looking maybe back at some previous 2022 road courses, and really now that the pricing is out for the slate, let's walk through it and kind of give our initial thoughts and reactions here. Once practice and qualifying is done on Saturday, we will get a final picks video out. We'll get the sheet uploaded on Twitter so you guys know exactly which way we are leaning. So looking at Watkins Glen, we are on a road course. It is a higher speed road course versus some of the more technical road courses that we have on the circuit. But that doesn't really matter too much to me, in my opinion. I'm still really just going to look at the 2022 road course data and potentially, even some of the road course data from last season, maybe some of the Watkins Glen data. But we are with that next gen car, so I really want to focus more on the 2022 data, and of course, practice and qualifying. So when it comes to road courses, you're limited on the number of laps. So this one's 90 laps. So because of that, Dominator points aren't as big of a factor than they were, say, at Richmond last weekend. 400 laps at Richmond versus 90 laps at Watkins Glen. Very, very different story, very different priorities when it comes to what types of plays we really want to focus on. So when it comes to Watkins Glen, really, you just want to focus on finishing position, and ideally, maybe even a driver who starts 15th, 20th, who can most likely get inside the top 5, have a chance of winning the race. Those are usually the types of plays that perform well on road courses. It's not really a super speedway type of lineup construction where it's just, hey, stack the back and play drivers starting 25th on back and you should be good to go. So when it comes to lineup construction, normally what we've seen so far at these road courses, especially with the road courses that have not had a lot of cautions, is normally there's maybe one, potentially even two drivers in your line that usually just is your lap leader. It's whoever has the fastest race. It's not a ton of laps that they're leading, but if they lead 60 of the 90 laps or 50 of the 90 laps, it's still a decent amount of points that you want to make sure you are accumulating. For example, at the Indy Road Course, Tyler Reddick, was clearly the best car, and he was out front for most of the day. Looking at Road America, it was Chase Elliott and then Tyler Reddick towards the second part of the race. So once practice and qualifying is done, let's try to find the 1 to 2 drivers who we feel the most confident in, who are gonna stay out front, get out front, lead laps, pick up maybe some fast laps for us. And we can look at some of those drivers once practice and qualifying comes out. And then it really comes down to, let me pair the rest of my drivers. Let me try to find other drivers who either have great finishing potential, who I know have a great chance of finishing inside the top 10, or drivers who start a little bit deeper in the field than they should have. And I know most likely if things go their way, things don't get weird, things don't get crazy, I know they're going to earn me a lot of positive place differential points. So usually it's 1 to 2 dominators, and then really just finish stacking the rest of that lineup with drivers who can have the ability to finish inside the top 10 that offer some positive place differential, or just plays who are going to maintain their track position and get that finishing position closer towards the front of the field. Another thing to keep in mind when you are selecting your drivers, stage racing has really changed the dynamic of road courses. So you're going to have drivers that are going for the win, and then you're going to have drivers that are just going to have a good points day. Now, I can't tell you for sure which category some of these drivers are going to fall in, but once we get to the driver by driver breakdown, I'll give you my best guess of what drivers I believe are going to be points racing and what drivers aren't going to be point racing. If you're point racing, it's a great NASCAR points, real life day. But if if you are points racing, you're basically sacrificing your track position. You're sacrificing your chance for a win. And most likely it isn't going to be a great DFS day. So let's try to keep that in mind. Normally, when we get to the road courses, we see the field get relatively strung out. There's usually a low number of cautions. Things usually don't get too crazy. The only one thing that might kind of throw a wrench into all of this is if you look at the forecast, there's a lot of rain in the forecast, especially for Sunday, and then really Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, kind of following days of the race. So it will be really interesting to see if it actually rains for Watkins Glen. The Cup cars can run in the rain as long as it's not a thunderstorm and as long as it's not just a complete downpour. So if we do get rain, that would definitely be interesting. It would definitely really mix up the dynamic of the race. In my opinion, looks like practice and qualifying in the race for the Xfinity race on Saturday should be fine. But that's just kind of what we want to keep in mind coming into this weekend. And then once pricing came out, Watkins road courses are really tracks where it really does matter about the starting grid. So a lot of this is theoretically might change, but drivers in blue are drivers that I think I want to focus on, or drivers I think could be that early lap leader, or drivers who I feel confident in, can get up towards the front, earn a top 10 finishing position. So I think lineup construction might look something similar like this. And then the drivers in yellow there, Cindric, Blaney, Truex, and Briscoe, those are the drivers. That's my best guess of drivers that are going to be points racing. Truex and Blaney are basically points racing for the last 2 races of the year to try to get that last position in on points for the playoffs. But that's only assuming that we get no new winners. Now, where things get a little weird, especially for Cindric and Briscoe, say we get 2 new winners. Well, then drivers who have a win are most likely, whoever has the least amount of points who has a win. Kurt Busch is going to be the first one out, but theoretically there could be 2 drivers on their way out. So then it kind of comes down to Cindric and Briscoe, who are kind of in that category. So they're pretty safe, but for whatever reason, if it looks like we're going to be getting a new winner at Watkins Glen, and then we know how unpredictable Daytona can be, they want to make sure that they have as much points as possible. So I would imagine that Cindric and Briscoe might be in that points category as well. So those are drivers I don't really want to focus on coming into the weekend. Unless it just looks like they have a stupid fast car and have a chance for the win. But right now, I think they're just going to go for points racing, and it isn't going to equate to a good DFS day. So Chase Elliott Watkins Glen has been his track for him. It's hard to imagine him not having a great day at Watkins Glen. I mean, we've seen the Chase Elliott dominance, especially at this track. It's unbelievable going back and looking at his results. But this is a new car. It's a new year. He has been running well on the road courses, but really it's been Team Trackhouse and really Tyler Reddick. Those have really been the drivers that have excelled so far on the road courses. So Elliott and Larson are the most expensive. I think they have a great chance of being that early lap leader, of being potentially one of the dominator plays in your line. Tyler Reddick is arguably the hottest driver, at least considering on the road courses. He completely dominated the Indy road course. He won at Road America earlier this year. Road America is a little bit more of a higher speed road course, similar to Watkins Glen. Crazy to see Reddick that expensive. But, if we see him qualify on the pole, if we see his practice times are significantly faster than everybody else, then you have to feel confident that he's going to be one of those lap leaders for you. I would say Ross Chastain's probably, he's in that category as well. It just will kind of come down to qualifying metrics. Cindric's too expensive. I think he's going to be points racing. AJ Allmendinger, most likely he's going to have a top 5 car. It's just, where does he start? How can you fit him into your line? Suarez won at Sonoma early this year, so another road course, but you kind of got lucky with Kyle Larson going for points racing and not pitting before the stage. So those circumstances could have changed, but Suarez still had a great car. He was able to get track position and win that race. We know how good Trackhouse has been at the road courses. Blaney and Truex, I think, are going to be points racing, so I don't really want to go there. And the thing that's wild to me is JGR, how cheap JGR is for this race. But if you look at the road course data from this year, JGR has not been good. They have really struggled with their road course program. Now, the one maybe positive, encouraging thing is Watkins Glen is a faster road course, and we know how much speed those cars have had, especially at some of the intermediate and larger tracks that we've been to. But I just have a hard time feeling confident plugging one of them into my line. Um, Harvick and Logano and Bowman are pretty cheap, but I'm blown away with how cheap William Byron is at $7,700. He's probably, one of my favorite value plays. He's super easy to fit in the lines. He's running the Xfinity race. Yeah, it's a completely different car, but anytime you can get more laps on a track, I think that's going to benefit you. Now, the kind of fun thing is Kimi Raikkonen is coming over into, from F1 basically into race the race on Sunday. So really cool, really, really great story. He's going to get a lot of TV time, a lot of coverage. But $7,600 for Kimi Raikkonen, who, doesn't really have too much experience in these cup cars, especially the next gen cars. Did practice at VIR last weekend to get some laps. He is in a trackhouse car. We know the car is going to be fast. It's just hard to imagine, Kimi finishing, potentially top 10 versus over these cup regulars. And then really from there, there's not really anyone that's going to pop off until maybe practice and qualifying comes out. But looking at some of the value range down here, Cole Custer and Todd Gill and maybe even Harrison Burton would be kind of my favorite value plays. But one thing to keep in mind, you kind of have some of these road course ringers, especially down towards the bottom of the slate. Now, their equipment is not great by any means, but should we get rain on Sunday for the race day, and especially if these guys start deep in the field, I think rain is going to benefit them. I don't think it's possible that they get like a top 10 or anything, but especially if it's raining, we see a lot of cars having issues sliding off track. I think that potentially might help some of these punt plays. So that's just kind of initial thoughts preview video coming into this weekend. Once practice and qualifying is done, we'll get a final picks video up for you guys. We also have an Xfinity preview video up, but yeah, that'll do it. And we will talk to you in a couple of days.